All right, welcome to Business Express for a Thursday, the 11th of August, 2022. And for the next 15 minutes, we've got Rotus joining in for a great conversation. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers. Good to be with you all again today.
All right. Well, on the show today, we get to look at Nigeria's leadership, her leadership style, the economic output as well, from the economic outcomes, right, from 1999 till date. All right. You can be part of the show. 0809-444-0981 is the WhatsApp number to send a message across to us. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM, and we're streaming live on YouTube, Smooth981FM Lagos. Rotus, let's get the show started. So
yes, indeed. So there's a tweet. I shared the tweets with you from Bismarck Rwanda, who is prominent economist here in Nigeria, runs Financial Derivatives Company Limited. And in the tweet, he says the following: my attention has been drawn to a misleading headline in today's edition of This Day newspaper, one of the most big, most popularly circulated newspapers in the country. Rewane, president's leadership style delivering least economic outcomes. And that was the headline. And that says, at no point did I ever say this to anybody. The slides presented at the Lagos Business School were misinterpreted. So he's referring to a regular presentation that he gives at the Lagos Business School. It's an economic presentation. He talks about economic variables, inflation, GDP, any pressing matter in Nigeria, pressing economic matter. He discusses it. There were some, and I've shared that particular slide with you. And then it says, the second tweet, it says, the slides presented at the Lagos Business School were misinterpreted without my discussion or clarification from me. It says, this day has promised to correct the error. I implore our young journalists to please stick to professional ethics and not be carried away by misguided enthusiasm. So I've shared the slides with you. It's in a PowerPoint slide, and it says, leadership style and economic outcomes. And it now compares the presidents from 99 up until date on different economic variables. So for instance, and we'll go through them. If you look at the slides he has different categories. So he's got 6 categories: average GDP growth, average inflation rates, percentage change in exchange rate from the beginning to the end period of their term. Why are you smiling? External debt, and then reserves minus external debt. So if you look at the numbers,
that's why I'm smiling, Rotus, and perhaps why he's come out to quickly, dissociate himself from that article.
But you can see that
exactly
from the numbers, Buhari comes last, right? I think it's only in external reserves that Jonathan comes last. So, for example, average GDP growth.
Tell us.
Under the 4 of them. Obasanjo 7.7%, Yar'Adua 7.1%, Jonathan 5.5%, Buhari 1.1%. If you average,
can you imagine?
Average inflation, Obasanjo 12.19. Actually, Jonathan came first. He had the lowest inflation rate, 9.7. Obasanjo 12.1. Yar'Adua third, 13.1. Buhari last, 14.07. So anyway, in fact, the biggest one is the percentage change in exchange rates. 26% for Obasanjo, 27% for Yar'Adua, 63% for Jonathan, 150% for Buhari.
Can you imagine?
External reserves, this is where Buhari actually comes out in second place. So external reserves, Obasanjo, $43.1 billion. Buhari, second place, $39.18 billion. Yar'Adua, 32.3, and then Jonathan, 28.5. Then your debts, external debts. This one, Buhari comes first from behind. So the highest debt, $40 billion in debts so far. And by the way, we haven't added ways and means. So anyway, I'll leave that one aside. But $40 billion, the external debt. In fact, actually, ways and means doesn't count because this is external debt from outside. Ways and means is a credit facility provided by the CBN. That's internal. So I'll scratch what I just said. So external debt, $40 billion for Buhari. Second place, Jonathan at 15 billion. Yaradua, third place, 10 billion. Obasanjo, incredible. Only had $3 billion in external debt over his period. That is amazing. And that's because I guess he built reserves so much. And then your reserves minus debt. So can your reserves, your dollar reserves, can they cover your external debt? So Obasanjo comes out with 40 billion. Yaradua, second place, 22.34 billion. Jonathan, 13.5. And then Buhari is negative 0.8. So basically, Victor, the title of the slide says leadership style and economic outcomes. And if that's the title, and then this day newspaper said, president's leadership style, that is President Buhari's leadership style, delivers the least economic outcome. I mean, as a journalist, and if you are reading the headline for the purpose of the reading public to understand and interpret what the part says, it's correct.
Exactly. I mean, when I saw you share the slides with me, I just started laughing. I mean, you could tell you're like, why are you smiling? Because there was really no point him coming out to say, oh, you're misinterpreting what I said at the Lagos Business School. We have, the figures here right in front of us. How could that be a misinterpretation? Exactly. In fact, there are a lot of messages coming in just with you reeling out the figures. And I think we should just begin to take some of them as we progress with the show. Well, Ayodeji is saying, I hope this was calibrated to factor a worldwide pandemic.
Now, okay, go ahead. Let's quickly address that.
Yeah.
Now, I've said this, Ayodeji is correct. I've said this several times, that President Buhari has the distinction of having a hat trick of recessions. He's had three. I think the first one was 82 or 83. And he had the second one in 2016. Then he had the third one in 2020. Unfortunately for him, he has had an economic recession in each term that he has been president, from the military era to a civilian. And it is just, it's bad luck, because in 1983 or 82, when we had that recession, oil prices crashed. In 2016, when he had another recession, oil prices crashed. In 2020, as Ayodeji has pointed out, it was part of the COVID pandemic, oil prices crashed. So Victor, what will you do? Who was in charge at that time?
Exactly.
So, so yes, by factoring in the fact that there was external circumstances.
I really do not want to say much, and so I'll just take some of the messages, let the listeners do the talking. In fact, Benga Komu has a few of my thoughts in his second message, but I'll read the first one. He says, nobody in the government will be smiling at this report, and do the figures lie? The important thing is what do we do moving forward? Then his second message, leadership is an important catalyst for development, and we know there is deficiency of true leadership in the country. So there's no point, trying to run away from these particular slides. That's for Bismarck now. What he shared was quite apt. Everybody has a leadership style. There are different people. If you even look at state governors, some doing well, some others lagging behind and waiting for, federal allocation on a monthly basis so they can pay salaries. If there was someone else in government and there's a recession, there's, a crash in oil prices, whoever is the leader at that time will react differently, perhaps what that particular article is saying. So Jonah has a message as well. He says, I read the These Days story and I'm not sure what Bismarck is talking about. How else would the journalist have interpreted those shocking numbers? I understand he doesn't want to come across as a direct critic of the government, seeing as he's also one of their advisors. Yes. Unfortunately, the numbers don't lie, and it shows clearly that Buhari's leadership has delivered the least economic outcome. Like I said,
exactly. And
let the listeners do the talking for me. Well, Ayodeji is back again. He says, this was supposed to be the job, if the statistics bureau was effective, we didn't need an economist to show the government its report card.
That is another very apt point. Very
exactly.
Points there.
But you know that if I mean you're working in government, there are some reports you don't make public, Rotus.
Well, Victor, by the way, thank you, Ayodeji, thank you everybody that has sent messages. While we're the Bureau of Statistics, Victor, do you know we still have updated unemployment numbers in Nigeria? We had, the last time we got unemployment figure was Q4 of 2020, and it was 33% at that time.
Wow.
No updates since then. Zero.
So all through 2021, nothing at all.
Nothing in, yeah, exactly. We have not been updated on our unemployment figures since then. And they've been releasing other reports since that time, you know, but we don't have any. So while we're talking about the Bureau of Statistics, it is up to them to inform the public and give us our figures. You know, it's, you know, that is something else that needs to be really emphasized here as far as data that we deserve.
I really like how the conversation is going this morning. I should just take this message from Yinka Bolu. He's thinking differently. He says, take out COVID-19 and by extension, oil price crash. And I wouldn't really rate Buhari bad. Yes, maybe some policies were wrongly implemented, and that highlights the need to have sensible people working with you. You cannot give what you don't have, and that's why you must at all costs work with the best brains around. Closing the border to rice importation is not a bad idea, but we should have ramped up local capacity before closing the border. Great then Ogenechuku is in. It says there is an oil boom. Sadly, this government is not taking advantage of it. And Mr. President is the oil minister.
Correct. That is correct. I mean, well, how else can you put it? It is what it is.
Exactly. Well, some more messages, but let's keep the conversation going in the few moments.
Yeah, so look, Victor, what the thing now, you can look back at these numbers. The question now is for the next leadership that is coming into office in 2023. What are they going to do to turn things around? How do we boost our reserves? How do we take advantage of high oil prices? How do you bring down inflation? How do you grow GDP? How do you employ Nigerians? I mean, I don't know. See, I've done this thing before. I've asked people, what is your number one priority for Nigeria? Some people say corruption, some say electricity, some say jobs. And I keep switching. I think it should be jobs. How do you employ everybody? Every one of us knows one person that has finished NYSC that is trying to get an internship or a job at Smooth FM or that is looking for opportunities here. We all know at least one person. So the question now, all these numbers, the whole point of this conversation is that for whomever is coming into office, they are going to be facing some real work.
I agree with you. Are you there, Rotus? Okay, I'll just take a message in from Yinka Bolu. He says, one of the things is that the hard decisions that should have been taken were not. Why? That was the APC's campaign point, and those decisions were politicized. Subsidy was something Buhari himself claimed was not existing. When Goodluck Jonathan insisted on removing it, we all went up in arms. So we really don't have the right to point fingers at Buhari because we are all guilty. More messages coming in. Wahid is saying, no mind Uncle Riwane. If you have known him over time, he couches his criticism of the Buhari government economic policies. And final one, the candidates have no idea on how to tackle all these questions Rotus is asking. But gentlemen, thank you very much. We need to wrap things up here. And thank you, Rotus, for being a part of the show today. We'll do it again tomorrow when it's time for Tech Friday, right?